Welcome to the Crypto and Blockchain Talk.
Hello.
Hey.
Guten Tag.
Aloha.
Hola. Shalom.
Hello.
Namaste.
Ni hao.
Privet.
Hello.
Salut. Yassas.
Salve.
Ciao.
Bonjour. Our podcast talks about the latest trends in the worlds of cryptocurrencies and the blockchain.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Crypto and Blockchain Talk. And I am so excited because back with us is Jack O'Halloran, who is the CEO of SKALE Labs, and he's a glutton for punishment because he's agreed to come on to Crypto and Blockchain Talk again. So before we go any further, Jack, thank you for coming back on.
Hey, this punishment is my pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, I'm sure your wife can't wait to hear this podcast. So look, I have to apologize right now to everyone. I know it sounds like we're talking to Jack with two soup cans and a string, but look, we needed to get him on. It's a very interesting day in this world. Really, there's no better person to talk to about the state of the world and what's happening in the crypto and blockchain sphere than Jack. And one thing we're going to start with, because you cannot ignore this massive elephant in the room in terms of course, Russia attacking the Ukraine. Now, since this has happened, this military operation, the price of Bitcoin, it fell actually in the last couple of days below 35. Today, it's going a little bit more north. It's headed back towards 40. That was a decline of more than 8% as compared to a day earlier when it hit that below 35 mark. People right now are fundraising using Bitcoin, using crypto to raise funds for the Ukrainian army. A lot of people think that crypto is going to really start going quite bullish because with all these sanctions that are put against Russia, that Russia's they're just going to skirt around this whole banking system by using crypto. So give me your picture of what you think this space is going to look like during this period of time of war.
First off, I just want to say, my co-founder, Stan Kladko, is Ukrainian. We've got about 20 SKALE team members that are Ukrainian, and thankfully, the majority of them, the vast majority, are out of the country. They were out for an engineering retreat and weren't able to go back to their homes. And so I just want to say, I personally have been to Ukraine over 20 times in the last 4 years. I've really gotten to know the country. So it's just a sad and just shocking event. And it's, unbelievable this is happening in this day and era, but here we are. And I think to your point, we're seeing major market volatility. Mm-hmm. And hey, this is not, don't take this any sort of I don't have a crystal ball. This is not financial or investment advice, but my perspective is the power of blockchain is that it's borderless, and blockchain is one of the things I like about it is it's equally hated and loved by the left and the right.
Yeah,
I hope it stays that way. Yeah, that can pass political law and views on either side or be rejected by them on either side. And, just like when the pandemic started, crypto suffered even more so than traditional equity markets. And people were saying, why is this happening? I was on a podcast and someone was saying, well, isn't crypto supposed to be able to not be connected to traditional equities markets? And if there are issues with traditional banking infrastructure, it provides value. And sure enough, like a month later or whatever it was, there was just an incredible surge that precipitated equities surges. So I do think crypto markets are going to just continue to flourish. I don't think it's going to have anything to do with nefarious money sources. And one thing that I think is under-recognized is that Bitcoin, Ethereum, SKALE, all these blockchains that are out there, there are incredibly sophisticated tools, and Chainalysis is a company that sells one of these products, and they sell these to governments and regulators. And so it makes it really easy once you have an identity, track people and track money. So I think crypto can play by the international monetary rules, but it also opens up use cases that are compliant, and it's just, we're going to keep seeing incredibly massive growth despite these, hiccups. And one thing I would say is, one sad thing that makes me cringe a little bit about crypto is that every time the prices go way up, I have, people from my high school and middle school and people I know from a long time ago that are just reaching out, buying And people like to buy when everyone else is when things are high, and then they sell when things are low. And there's better ways to participate in markets than just joining at the peak and exiting during fear stages. So
yeah, absolutely.
hopefully people are also learning how these cycles work at a broader level.
Bitcoin obviously is the head of the dragon. Yeah. And when you see Bitcoin affected as such, and then, of course, Ether on top of that, it seems to shake people very much. Do you think all these people who you were just talking about who are looking at crypto as an investment, do you think they're now doubting this space, the crypto space, as being a viable way to actually make money? Do you think that they truly understand it's everything that's taking a hit?
One common misconception from the majority of token holders out there is a lot of people only hold one or two or three tokens, or one or two or three, assets in some other category. Then they just see that one asset dropping, and then they assume that there's something isolated about that asset. And this is really a global macroeconomic event that is impacting everything. Now, another thing too that I think is a common misconception is people look at coins and tokens as if they're stocks or securities. They're not. They're actually functional units of value that they're pieces of software that have utility. Bitcoin, Ethereum, SKALE, all these tokens out there actually have utility value. And so when I see market prices drop, and hey, one of their utilities, the fact that they do have extrinsic value, is what gives them security. But when let's say there was a security issue related to Bitcoin, and all of a sudden everyone's Bitcoin could be at risk. Well, the price would drop immensely, right? Now, that would be a price that's correlated to a negative component around its utility. But when there's a war, to me, I see that, and I see the price dropping, and it's kind of like, okay, like there's an opportunity if you want to hold more Bitcoin, because the price drop is related to a kind of a current event. Hey, I have a lot of confidence that societally we will get through this. I think the economic sanctions and hopefully other ways of support will help resolve this sooner rather than later, especially for, the sake of all the lives here on the line. And, I do have confidence that we're going to come to a resolution. But yeah, right now it's a rocky time, but the issues are not directed back to the function of these products.
And it's very positive what you said, which I'm on board with. Absolutely. I'm hoping that this is something that we can get through as quick as possible in terms of the aggressions that are happening. But going back to what I said at the beginning of the podcast, where, everyone is imposing economic sanctions on Russia, but let's face it, economic sanctions mean nothing when you have Bitcoin. And it's very easy, just look at Whale Alert, to move billions of dollars through different exchanges with, you don't have to worry about that. If you don't have to worry about sanctions if you've got Bitcoin. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah. I mean, I do. So if you are a Russian that has a bank account that is, and your Bitcoin address is linked to that and your identity is related, then your wallet will be on a blacklist if you're in a region that is not. Our law firm today sent us a note saying, hey, just as a heads up, if you do any work with any people in these Donetsk and these regions and Crimea, your bank account will be completely frozen, your work bank account. And, which is a shame, because sadly they didn't say that and say, hey, if you do business with anyone with a Russian bank account, your bank account's frozen. It's just people in these regions who are being impacted, sadly. Hey, you can still transfer and send Bitcoin back and forth, but if you want to make that money turn into fiat, you can't hide. That's one of the great things about Bitcoin, I think. Little known, the people who are anti-crypto out there don't recognize that you can still connect identities to hashes. And I think it's a value and a net positive for the industry that happens, and instead of this like entirely black hole of money that supports nefarious activities.
Well, this is the interesting thing here. Now, when you're talking about money flowing into the United States, then yes, it's easy to connect the dots. We had on this podcast multiple times two people, Carmen Siekenbein and Craig Duploy, who not only are very heavily entrenched in the cybercrime, crypto crime space, they're saying it's very easy to, and it was a very interesting podcast because I had to redact a lot of it because I didn't want to give people the, the how-tos of how to do it. And I mean, I had to I was literally listening to the podcast edits. I was going, nope, that's coming out. Nope. I mean, because literally Carmen was like, okay, so the first thing you do is this, and then you do this, and then you launder the money clean. And I was like, holy crap. But
well,
yeah.
That's beyond my pay grade and knowledge. I don't know how to do that.
The nuts and bolts of it are that maybe going into America and the American banking system, it may, and I say may, using that very loosely because apparently it's really not that difficult at this time, but coming the other way, and I'm talking about if you're using the banking system and you're the one, if you're, let's say, Putin and you want to use the banking system to, help the flow of your own money around the world, I don't think you're going to have a problem. I just don't see that happening. And also, we have to remember that this technology and any technology, even banking technology, is as smart as the weakest link in the chain. And there's a lot of smart programmers around the world. So I just think that all these sanctions, I'm just wondering if that's another reason why maybe they're laughing at the sanctions. But I don't know if they're thinking, well, let's just look at Whale Alert very, very quickly because I have it up anyway. I mean, there's a couple of $1 billion swirling around the system. We're talking about $1 billion transfers at any moment in time. So, and someone's making these. There's a person making these, even though there's just been an article, there's fresh data that has basically proven that many people aren't interested in selling their Bitcoin. They're hodlers. They're long-term hodlers. They want to hold on for dear life. They are not interested in touching their wallets, and long-term investors are adding to their positions and staying put on their Bitcoin exposure. It's a very interesting place where we are at this time. I listened to the White House talking about the economic sanctions they were imposing, and I swear to God, the first thing I thought was, well, there's crypto. There's crypto. So do you watch the Senate committee when they're talking about crypto, or are you like my husband where you go, oh, what, this is just more crap that's coming out from people's mouths?
I try to only look at the real tangible pieces that come out of that, because I think a lot of it is just people talking back and forth about things they don't understand.
And it's very true. I mean, all you have to do is look at the way they treated Zuckerberg during,
Yes, I'm a lot like your husband.
Do you think that the United States government is ready for crypto yet?
To that answer, one thing that is an absolute fact, anyone who tries to fight technical trends historically gets run over, okay? You look at businesses that tried to fight technical trends. They don't exist anymore. You look at, people, opinion leaders who thought, social media was a passing fad. Like, guess what? No one listens to them anymore. And I think crypto is even, it combines application technology, it combines cryptography, it combines fintech, it combines so many different elements of technology with finance that if you're trying to fight it, you're going to get run over. And you look at the governments, I think, that are going to have a really big advantage in the world are governments like Singapore that are very crypto-friendly, governments like Switzerland. And they, instead of fighting these trends, are actually embracing them. And yes, I do think the U.S. government and any sort of regulators that are trying to fight progress and technical innovation so they can have more control will actually only end up being ones that there'll be people on the side of the narrative that are no longer heard in the future, and they will no longer be elected. And they may cause the rest of us some friction in the short term, but if history is any indicator, they're on their way out.
Okay, well, you are obviously always at the cutting edge of technology. Well, I would like to invite all of our listeners to please tune back into, if you haven't listened to it, Jack's previous interview with us, where he talks about how he's long in the tooth. I don't mean to make you sound like you're 80 here, Jack, but he's long in the tooth when it comes to not just tech, but definitely blockchain. It looks like that you guys, meaning SKALE, your company, have earmarked about $100 million. And that, by the way, is a lot of pocket change to fuel blockchain gaming. Yeah. So you have kickstarted this program with $5 million US going to creators who are obviously focused on blockchain gaming and this whole P2E space and the metaverse. Now, Jack, I know you listen to all my podcasts. I know you listen to them faithfully. So you know that my last podcast was with Reniverse, who are this protocol. Basically, it's about interoperability within games and really using DeFi and dovetailing that into the whole GameFi space. Now, you are really going out there and kickstarting. It's really new. I don't care if it's been going on for a year or even 2 years. This is really still a relatively new space, especially in the world of gaming. And I read a whole bunch of facts and figures in the last podcast. Things like the gaming industry is set to reach 400 billion, I think it was by 2026. We're talking millions and millions of wallets just for gaming being opened by the end of 2023. And I'll have to find the number of that again because the number was astronomical. Mm-hmm. You're also going into this famous, you're really looking at this famous word, the metaverse, this new overused, overflogged word. And so, I mean, isn't it? Come on, let's be honest.
I heard somebody call it the M word the other day. I thought that was funny.
It is the M word. You know what? And the funny thing is that do you remember when that company, it was the Long Island Iced Tea Company. And do you remember a long time ago, I can't remember what year it was, they thought, okay, we're just going to call ourselves the Long Island Blockchain Iced Tea Company or something. And their share price, do you remember that? And their share prices escalated. Yeah. Well, I think now,
that was wild.
Well, I think now all you have to do is say the word metaverse and the same effect happens.
It's true. So, and so, hey, I think, thank you for introducing this. Maybe I'll tell people, I'll tell our listeners here a little bit more about this fund and why we're doing it. So it's a $100 million grant program that's been earmarked by the foundation behind the SKALE network. And these funds will be issued by the foundation, by DAO entities, by corporations and corporate partners. And our goal is to grow Web3. And actually it will be, this $100 million will live and be distributed across gaming, DeFi, NFTs, different Web3 applications, decentralized marketplaces, areas where SKALE can add value and help grow and support developers is where these grants will go. Now, the first piece of this is a $5 million grant program dedicated entirely to blockchain gaming. And I said this earlier, but the M word is what people are calling it because metaverse is so overutilized as a word. And like, what is a metaverse? What isn't a metaverse? Well, it's a very nebulous thing, but what we're seeing is that when people, want to interact with other people in a digital game environment that is augmented by avatars and NFTs and digital assets, interacting, like those, that, in one way, shape, or form is the metaverse. And I think it's going to be a huge category. Play to earn gaming is growing and growing and growing, but we've not even seen, we're at the very tip of the spear for blockchain. The real game devs are just starting to get interested. The blockchain games to date, I think, have been, good, but not, there's been less competition for pure gameplay. They've been surviving and winning based off of really strong economic incentives. So we're going to see some exciting growth in blockchain gaming this year, and SKALE's, we're happy to support it. And if anyone is listening who's a game developer, please, you can go to the SKALE.network website and learn more about this program.
So the way that DeFi is evolving and the way that P2E I see a point of intersection in a big way. Do you think it's obvious? Do you see a vision where P2E and DeFi literally just slam into each other and make this like happy unicorn sprinkle pop?
That's a great way to put it. So I don't think you can have one without the other, to be honest. I think, one of the things we're most excited about with SKALE, so there's this SKALEverse, we can call it the S word. So the metaverse, the SKALEverse.
Can we not call it the S word? Because that can mean anything. And I don't want that to be one thing. So don't call it the S word. Call it something. Call it another super sprinkle.
We won't try to co-opt that word. I think that one's already been taken. So one cool thing is that all of these SKALE chains that live, and a little refresher for people, SKALE, instead of being one blockchain, is many, many blockchains. And with the SKALE V2 Scaleverse launch, all the chains can talk. So we'll have all of these play-to-earn games that have their own chains that are not, hindered by fees and zero gas fees. So if you're in Indonesia or Vietnam or Philippines, where the vast majority of P2E gamers live, you're not paying gas fees and cutting into your profits. So you can be playing these games, and then you can go hop over to a DEX on SKALE in 15 seconds and zero fees, which is another chain, and go and sell your tokens. And so, and then you can sell those tokens and get USDC out of it, or Bitcoin, or Ethereum, or Wrap Bitcoin, or maybe you go and you take USDC or ETH and you go to a metaverse chain and you go buy an NFT. And what we'll see is this whole ecosystem of connected products but to the original question, DeFi and play to earn are connected at the hip. You cannot, if you just have play to earn tokens, you're not going to be able to ever exchange them or move them around or do other things with those. We're also going to see DeFi primitives go into, more natively into play-to-earn products and adding, some of these features and functionalities right within the gameplay. So cool stuff on the horizon.
Well, really cool. And I think gaming is going to open up a lot within the blockchain space. I don't even think it's just going to be about gaming in the traditional sense, because gaming is basically a way to play something for fun, or do something with fun injected. You can make anything a game, even memorizing your homework. So it's just a way to make anything boring fun. Would you agree with me on that?
Yeah, I think that's a really fair way to say it.
Yeah, so, I'm not being funny, but anything now. You can, listen, I think I might be applying for a $100 million program because I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of stuff. It's not, when you read about Nintendo and GameStop and everybody who's doing, dare I say it, run-of-the-mill boring things that you obviously expect. Of course I expect Nintendo to get into the GameFi space and put everything on as an NFT, et cetera, et cetera. But I think now, I just see like gaming wrapping a kind of arm and a half around things like, let's say, shopping. Or because you what you do is if you can take anything and make it fun, especially things that are boring. Oh my God, this is a multi-million-dollar idea I've just had. And I'm actually broadcasting this, so I hope somebody does something with it. But I guess what I'm trying to say is that you're not just, I think people, if they really look at what you're doing and if they open up their mind and make something a little bit more creative, we're going to have a lot of exploding unicorn sprinkle pops with confetti coming out. Are you doing anything extra to kind of stimulate this space, or is it just that you've gone out there and said, bring us what you have? How are people supposed to come to you with projects?
Yeah, really good question. So when there's an application form, there's a place where they can, write about themselves and their project, their ideas, their team. And so there's a landing page that you can get to via the SKALE website that will bring people there. But hey, we're open. We're open to all, the grants will be anywhere from $10,000 to $500,000 and maybe larger. And so to get a $500,000 or $1 million grant, well, that would be obviously a much more established team and product. But hey, we're also here ready to support the small 1 or 2 person developer teams that are ready to launch something. And the cool thing about gaming and blockchain is that both of them, even though they feel established, are both just getting started. When you combine them together, you get some magic. And, what we've seen with play-to-earn gaming, I think, is just the beginning. So this will be, get ready for huge growth. And, I think not that well-known piece of information is that game developers up till now have actually not been, by and large, not been fans of blockchain and not been developing in blockchain. There's been some, I think, just some anti-blockchain sentiment amongst the really good game devs, and I think that's starting to change. So it'll be an exciting year.
So let me ask you this. One thing that the Chinese banking regulator has just done is they've warned against a massive fraud risk in the metaverse, saying that the thing about the gaming industry, and especially now with this new M word attached to it, many projects which are quite frankly beep are, making themselves look very attractive or very deceptive. and that it's the next way in crypto where people are being scammed. Have you guys ever had people apply to your program, and have they ever made it look like it's a valid project and tried to hoodwink you?
Yeah, you know what? And that's one of the values, I think, having a foundation that helps support these grants, a value that's provided back to the community that will use Scale, is we try to act as a filter, too, to make sure that, hey, these are not, scams or exit scams or quick money grabs. And, we want to find real developers and real teams that want to build. And the sad reality is there's a lot of scams out there. And we get hit up all the time by people. You wouldn't believe how many people have reached out to us to try to get a grant already that were actual scams. And so, as a Scale is an open, decentralized network. It's just a bunch of blockchain code, right, that's run by servers that our core team or foundation doesn't run. But one value we add a lot of values, but as a core team, but one additional value is, we try to help filter that and keep the Scale-verse clean. But hey, it is also a decentralized open network. And so my recommendation too is, one, do your research, understand what you're using. If you're using MetaMask, never give up your keywords. If anything's asking you, input your words, never do that, okay? There's like a guideline of like these 5 rules, and that's the first one. And the other thing that I do think that is improving with gaming is I'm seeing a lot of custodial wallet solutions come forward where end users don't need to remember their 12 or 24 words. End users are protected by a wallet that will not let them connect and lose their money into a nefarious product. They lose their password. They can have recovery. And so there's also, I think, a lot of technical improvement on the user experience side that not just makes blockchain, it doesn't just make blockchain easier to use, but it makes it more safe and secure for your normal user who's not a blockchain engineer.
So you're now up there. So you have this fund, this $100 million fund, which, by the way, I really need that URL where valid, normal, non-scammy people can go and apply for your fund. Because you've got GameStop, and of course Immutable have launched their $100 million fund. And then you have Forte, which has almost 800 million, I think, in US dollars earmarked for blockchain gaming. And so I'm just wondering, if I was a very talented project, do you think it's a good idea for me to throw my eggs in just one basket, or should I be applying for everything under the sun?
I would recommend people do homework on the blockchain that's going to give you the most value and success. And, hey, I'm obviously very biased with Scale.
Are you?
But
Who would you go with?
It's really hard to maintain decentralization, have good performance, and have low fees. And I think that's, we built Scale with the goal of being able to actually drive real, user experiences for hundreds of millions of people. And a lot of blockchains are just not built to scale. And then once they get a certain, it's like Uber or Lyft, like a rideshare platform. Let's say you could only have 100 drivers ever. But then there's 200 people that want to ride, 300 people. And let's say you wanted to if you kept the price down, well, it just takes forever to get a ride. And that's literally what we're seeing in blockchains that keep the price down. They have slow performance. If you look at blockchains that want to have surge pricing like Ethereum right now, well, guess what? There's fast performance, but you've got to pay a lot, okay? And so Scale, I won't get into the details now, but due to the architecture and the technology, we're able to help the scalability happen without having performance impact or price impact. So, that to me is the critical piece, is not what's just going to work today or the next 6 months, but as blockchain really grows, what systems and networks and technologies are going to be able to support that growth. You
guys have version 2 that's just come out, right? I mean, you do have Scale 2.0. It's already hit the decks, hasn't it? What's different and better?
Going through the audit, and it launches. It's targeted for mid-March. So there's an audit contest, which you cannot cut any corners when it comes to audits, in my opinion, and just security. So the code is done, the code's complete, and the rollout is soon coming. And when that rollout happens, there'll be over 100 different teams building and getting ready to deploy over the next few months on V2, Scale V2. We have not announced the launch of Scale V2. We've announced on the blog for a long time, but it's not live yet.
Are we the first podcast to announce that your V2 is ready in March?
I believe you are, yeah. Yeah, I've written a bit. Yeah, you are. Woo, right here. You're hearing it. We wrote a blog saying, hey, we're targeting, here's what V2 is. And I've not talked to anyone about this since before the audit started. And so this is the first podcast we've been on where we are talking about the timeline. It's exciting. We're getting close.
Okay, so well then tell me, what's different, better, and sexier?
So one, chain-to-chain communication. All chains can talk to each other, which is pretty cool, right? So you get, like we talked about the Uber scenario. And on SKALE, when more nodes join the network, it actually adds more supply. So it's like, hey, if this was a rideshare platform, instead of having 100 cars, all these new nodes join, now you've got 120, then 150, right? And other blockchains, the way blockchains work is if more servers join, they actually all just still process the same number of transactions. They don't add more capacity. And so that's a unique feature. Now, SKALE has this already, but these, it's almost like these cars are all in different lanes and they can't, switch lanes. And now you've got all these fast cars and they can switch lanes, and you can go from a gaming lane to a finance lane to a decentralized marketplace lane. And that's the real big piece. There's also something called speedy game mode that's launching. And there are some other things that are kind of less like cool to the consumer and user, but really good for developers, like advanced multi-sig tools and management capabilities that will be integrated with the new chain, as well as an Oracle, a native Oracle in the SKALE network. Nice.
So, okay, do you have any partnerships coming in the future? Is there anything else you can spill on this?
Yeah. So, hey, we do. I'm limited. There's some big announcements coming up. One cool thing, actually, that was just announced on SKALE is that 3 Air and K3 Telecom, which is one of the largest telecom providers in Africa, have partnered to use the SKALE network to bring internet connectivity in a decentralized manner to Africa. And they just raised $10 million to launch this in Ethiopia. This was a big story recently. We're excited about that. The Ruby exchange is coming really soon, launching on SKALE. Keep your eyes open for that, as well as Boot Finance. That's a really cool DeFi project. And those are 3 off the top of my head. And there are, like I said, about 100 that are coming, but those 3 are pretty exciting, and keep your eyes open.
Oh, come on. Don't tease me. Tell me something that's coming up that nobody else knows. We're like best friends now.
I would, and then my comms team is going to call me and they say, Jack, what are you doing?
Well, that's okay. They can yell at you. They're not going to yell at me. I just won't answer the phone. Come on, spill, man, spill. I don't get you on here for your looks. I want to hear some news.
Have me on again. I'll make sure I keep some prize secrets for you. And we can talk about how, the S word as Scaleverse went.
And again, I'm not calling it the S words.
Which for people, if you're just listening, that relates back to metaverse. Metaverse is now a 4-letter word that no one says. It's the M word. Okay, and so SKALE is the Scaleverse.
Yes, SKALE is SKALE. We're not calling it the S word.
There's a logical reason for that definition.
I love your attitude. Your attitude is awesome, especially for the CEO of a pretty major blockchain project. Your passion and everything is pretty awesome. The motto is war doesn't get us down. Do you think that the future is still going to be as bright going forward in terms of what's happening in crypto and blockchain?
Yes, definitely. What I'll say, though, is we're ready for some tough times ahead. I mean, I had a call this morning with people on our engineering team that they can't go back to their home, and their friends and family are there, and they're hoping their friends live, and they're hoping that their home's there when they get back, and they're hoping that they have a government that, is the same one as when they left, and it's not an authoritarian regime. So that's the piece that I'm, I'm really, that's concerning me, that's has me down. The future of crypto and the markets and the utility of blockchains is just going to grow. And I don't think the war is going to have any negative long-term impact on that at all. But I from a personal and human perspective, I'm definitely, less shiny and bright and, feeling a lot of empathy right now.
Well, one thing I can say is that President Zelensky of the Ukraine, actually was very much pro-crypto. And he definitely saw the crypto markets, or I should say cryptocurrencies, as very innovative. As many people as possible get through this unscathed. That's all I guess we can hope for. And that...
Yeah, and even the Russian people. I have a lot of empathy for people who just don't want to, there's been all sorts of protests and people saying, why are we doing this? So, those people too are being, their economy is going to be crushed, and, it's sad.
Well, it is sad. And plus,
a lot of really great people in Russia who are being negatively impacted because of some bad decisions at the top.
Well, they are brave, because if they do vocalize that anywhere in Russia, they probably won't be vocal for long, if you understand my meaning there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
No, I just want to say this is fun. I love coming on the show, and, please have me back, because it's always a pleasure. I love you've got a very entertaining flow here, and it's always a good time.
You know what? I couldn't have put it better myself. I absolutely love having you on here. It's always a laugh. It's just always insightful. It's always fun, entertaining, educational. I absolutely love having you here. And of course, we're going to have you on again. Matter of fact, between you and me, when I saw that there was an email asking for you to come back on, I was like, of course. I actually asked him last time if he can come back on. So it will be happening again, especially now that I know that you have hot gossip, and I want that hot gossip first and foremost.
All right.
So thanks again.
We'll do it.
Thanks again for coming on. So now what I'm going to say is the following. Nothing myself or Jack has said on this podcast can possibly be construed as financial advice. If you have any questions, please seek out your own professional financial advisor, and remember to do your own homework. Don't follow the crowd like a sheep. Go and do your own research and your own homework and come to your own conclusions. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in today to this week's Crypto and Blockchain Talk. Remember that this show is streamed on over 70 different podcasting platforms, as well as on our sister radio station, Crypto24radio.com. Crypto24radio.com plays 24/7 around the world for all of our listeners and their listening pleasure, where we play news, music, and these beautiful podcasts. In addition, you can talk to us on any of our social media channels, including Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, but we love to hear from you most of all through email. Yes, email, that old traditional way. And our email address is education@savvydigital. That's education@savvy, S-A-V-I-I, digital.com. Again, thank you for tuning in. We know that there's a lot going on out there in the world, and that you have many choices of what to listen to, and your time is valuable. So when you tune into us, we really, really appreciate it. So please take care, be safe, and goodbye for now.